let's see. Let's say this on Twitter. How are you all? What time is it? Okay, 1:57. I was supposed to be here at 2, so we have a few minutes. I'm just going to let people on Twitter know that we're live. Hello, thank you for the like. Alright, let's put this on Twitter. Let's go, Brandon. I saw a really funny video. I don't know if you follow Dave Rubin at all. A very sad, well, not, what am I talking about? I'm not even in California right now, but he just moved to, Dave Rubin from the Rubin Report just moved to Florida, and a friend of his sent him a video. Hi! A friend of his sent him a video, and she found Let's Go Brandon. Someone put it in giant letters in the sand at some undisclosed location in Florida. Hi! I'm just supposed to be getting started at 2, so I'll just let a few people come in. I am, putting this on Twitter. Tweets off like live. Can't stay long today, work tonight, so I need to go to bed soon. Oh gosh, totally understand. There we go. That's on track. Hello. Thank you for joining. Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry early Christmas. It's on Saturday this week. Alright, we can go ahead and start it, I think. Please be a tad bit early. So the big news, which I guess is, it is a big win for Republicans. Republicans keep winning, which I think is good. Is that a fan I hear muffling your voice on? No, why is it? Oh no, I think I know what it is. Is it really bad? Too much static sound. You know what? This is bad news. I actually think so. I'm on my phone right now, and I think I need a new phone because I got blue cheese in it, and I think you hear the blue cheese. Let's. If this is not better, I might have to end this and then come back tomorrow. I'm so sorry. Is this any better or no? Yes, I had a to-go box and I wasn't. Let me know if this is better. If not, we might just have to meet again tomorrow. And I am so sorry. It's not better. Ah! Oh, much better. Oh, good. Yay. Okay. That's good news. So, all right, this might have to be I might have to end it a tad bit earlier, but we can still say, wow, now you're loud and clear. Okay, I just put in my microphone. So I messed up the speaker on my phone. I had a to-go box and there was a little bit of blue cheese in it, and I didn't put a lid on the blue cheese, and I put it in the to-go box and put it in my purse because I had a really big purse, like a person who is not very smart, and blue cheese got all over my phone. I'm so relieved. I didn't want to let you guys go. All right, now that that's out of the way, I'm a very clumsy person. So basically, Republicans keep winning, and moderate Democrats keep winning, and a big win happened yesterday. The media is framing it as unexpected. It is not unexpected at all. So Joe Manchin, he's a senator out of West Virginia. He's a Democrat senator, but keep in mind, West Virginia is a very red state. They overwhelmingly voted for Trump. And it's also a coal state. So some of the things in this Build Back Better big bill that they are trying to, I can't help it. That's so me. Yeah. All of my accidents happen over like the silliest little things. I've been in car accidents, I've done all these things, but all of my injuries come from silly things, and all of my accidents just are really silly. So Joe Manchin is a moderate Democrat, and the issue. So the Build Back Better bill was that huge, massive spending bill that they're putting through, and the Democrats kept trying to say it's free, it's not going to cost you anything, and then oh, oops, it is going to cost 1.9 trillion dollars, and oh, oops, it is going to cost $3 trillion. So yes, it will cost Americans a lot of money, especially in the long term. So people that aren't even born yet are going to be paying for this bill if it passes, because these are permanent things that they are trying to do. And the problem with the Biden, and this is the big landmark thing for Biden and his presidency, it's the Build Back Better bill. Biden is the Build Back Better president, or Build Back Brandon is what I like to call it. So the problem with this, and the problem with the Biden presidency just in general, and one of the reasons why he is losing on so many different fronts, is because he ran as a moderate. He really did. Like, he did not run as a radical, even though there are a lot of radicals within the Democratic Party. That's not how he ran, and now it's basically being run by radicals, his presidency. So you're seeing a huge disconnect in what they're doing in his administration right now, the American people, and what they thought they were voting for. And this Build Back Better bill, I'm actually looking at everything that was in it, has a lot of radical stuff in it. It has a lot of stuff that sounds good, free childcare, paid leave for families, all of these things that sound really, really good, but are really, really expensive and just create even more government dependency, which, if you are a classic Republican or Libertarian, you want less government control, more private sector, more of a market. No Democrat runs as a radical. They are lying. Shocker. Exactly. That's what they do. They lie, and they gaslight. They make all of these things sound really good. They make it sound like, how could you be against, free childcare? How can you be against that? Because it's super uber expensive, and it creates more government control, which benefits the government. It doesn't benefit the people that it's saying it wants to help. So, but what we know about Joe Manchin is he's always been very critical of it. He actually signed a document with Chuck Schumer saying that he didn't want it to be, I believe, over 1.5 or 1.9 trillion dollars. And he had all these provisions and said, I will not vote if these things are in it. And now we're finding out that, there's all these spending gimmicks, which they can say, oh, it's free, but really it's not free. So Joe Manchin, it was on Fox News last night on Bret Baier, and basically said he wasn't going to vote for it. And this is exactly what he said. He said, I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there. This is a no on the legislation. I have tried everything I know to do, and he has. He's been meeting with Biden. He had that letter with Chuck Schumer. They've been going back and forth. Exactly. It was a lie. And that's basically what Joe Manchin is saying. It was a lie. And he says, I have tried everything I know to do, and the president has worked diligently. He's been wonderful to work with. He knows I've had concerns and I've had problems. And the thing that we should all be directing our attention towards, the variant, a COVID that has been coming back to us in so many different aspects of our lives, and it's affecting us again. And he goes on to say, I can't go back to my people in West Virginia, people that are hurting really, really bad. Would you ever make a Discord for your community? Also, people should stop giving doubt. Yeah, possibly. I need to look into what Discord is, but I'll get back to that in a second, because I do want to do something for the community. And I've been going back and forth with what to do. But he goes on to say, after with inflation and that's a huge thing. Remember, we have inflation right now, and it is being projected to last through 2022. So it's not going away anytime soon. And the people of West Virginia, there's a lot of, it's free. Oh, cool. There's a lot of poverty in West Virginia, a lot of middle class, like lower middle class, a lot of blue collar workers. And that is the population, along with us and everyone else, who is feeling this inflation more than anyone. And now you're taking even more tax dollars from these individuals. This is not a time, and this is what Manchin is saying, this is not a time to pass a massive spending bill. People are already hurting right now. And with gas prices going up, all of that stuff. He was saying, my people, like some of them can't even afford to get to work because gas prices are so high. And he was just saying, I cannot go back to my people and explain to them why I voted for this. And now Democrats are just freaking out. So Ilhan Omar said, the excuses he just made, I think, are complete BS. She said, we all knew this was going to happen and he can't be trusted. It is really disheartening to hear him say that. He has been trying to get there for the people of West Virginia, and that's a complete lie. The people of West Virginia would greatly benefit from their families having access to long-term elderly care, and for folks with disabilities. They will, blah, blah, blah. The people of West Virginia desperately need this, and we know that he is not working on behalf of their interest, and I really am just completely disappointed and disgusted with his reasoning. You shouldn't be disappointed and disgusted. He has been very clear on his principles from the entire from the entirety of his time in the Senate, has been very clear, and you have to understand that his people are Republicans. That is a Republican state, and these are coal workers. There's also a bunch of energy stuff, Green New Deal type of stuff in the Build Back Better, and you're asking a coal state to get on board with that. AOC said, our entire democracy is on the line. We, as always, are here to fight for this agenda. What matters most is that it gets done. We cannot just shrug our shoulders and accept this. Is Omar quoting her brother husband? I know. But this shouldn't be a shock to anyone. And the media is having this huge meltdown and acting like this is such a shocker that he wasn't for this bill and how could this happen? This isn't a shocker. He's been clear. And a really good point that Ben Shapiro made was Manchin is probably saving Biden's presidency right now inadvertently, because if this passes, prices with everything else are going to go through the roof. And one of the main things that people are upset about right now are inflation and gas prices. So he's actually inadvertently saving the Biden presidency. But everyone is saying that this is pretty much dead, which is really, really good news. And this is interesting too. He has a D behind his name. That's what they all care about. He is a traitor. Well, they're all traitors. So if they think he's a traitor, they should just be like, well, he's one of us. Huh? They all are. Every single one of them. Hi, average enjoyer. How are you? But this is really interesting. So Gregory Angelo on Twitter said, and this is about the Build Back Better. Pretty soon he'll be branded a racist. Yes, he will. We know how they work. Bigot. Even though the definition, I love when people call anyone that disagrees with them a bigot, because the definition of bigotry is being intolerant of someone who has a different point of view or different ideas than you. So I love it. I love when people throw that word out. I love to just throw the definition right back at them. But Gregory Angelo said, privately, Senator Sinema has been telling people it's not just her and Manchin who are opposed to Build Back Better. Many of their Democrat colleagues are opposed as well, but are afraid to speak up. She tells them they are hiding behind their skirt, or they're hiding behind her skirt, which I agree with this, because everyone knows what it really is. And it's sad to me that people within the Senate are afraid to speak up. That's your job, or to be there for your constituents and to speak up for your constituents. And that's what AOC and Ilhan Omar and even Bernie Sanders came out and said, that he was not representing the people of West Virginia very well. Do you think Bernie Sanders and Ilhan Omar and AOC are popular in West Virginia? Do they not understand politics? He actually is speaking for his constituents. And that is exactly why he's saying that he's voting no, because he knows that this will ultimately hurt his constituents. And he is a Democrat who gets he is a Democrat who's been elected several times in a red state. This is not going to help his reelection if he goes and votes yes. And I think that's very true, actually. I think that many times, even if this little, piece of information isn't totally true, I could totally see how people hide behind Manchin and cinema because they aren't afraid to put their necks out there and speak for the people that they represent. And keep in mind that Sinema, she's a senator out of Arizona, and Arizona is a very purple state. So they're very mixed Republican and Democrat. And I would argue that the Democrats there are very moderate Democrats. And this is why the Biden presidency is imploding. Whoa, are you guys still here? That was so weird. It went to, my people count went to 0 all of a sudden. But everyone's still here, right? That was so weird. It just came back. I've never seen that before. But she, and this is why the Biden presidency is imploding, and why the approval ratings are so bad are because he ran as a moderate, and everyone thought that they were getting a moderate. They just wanted opposite Trump. They didn't want all these radical agenda items. And I think it's even, like, you have Bernie Sanders. I think he's writing Biden's profile in Time magazine, which is hilarious. Bernie Sanders, hold on. Biden's profile. Let's see. Sinema's first election was a test for the cheat in 2020. Ugh. Yeah, that's just crazy. Anywho, let's move on. So that's good news. Build Back Better is a no-go. Manchin is literally the most important person in the entire United States. It's the system of control. I hope not. That was so weird. Good afternoon. It won't take him long to write it. I actually heard a funny joke today. So I don't know if you saw that Elon Musk was in a Twitter war with Elizabeth Warren, and he called her Senator Karen because she was saying that he doesn't pay his fair share in taxes. Well, he just disclosed that he's actually going to be paying $11 billion in taxes this coming year. And somebody joked that all he has to do are buy 3 Hunter Biden paintings, and he won't have to pay taxes. If you get it, you get it. Hi, MacGyver. All right, now that Build Back Better is dead, that's good news. There's been some good news. Hilarious. Elon ripped on her. It was so funny. Senator Karen. I love it. Hi, Special K. All right, so that's good news. Sarah, did you see that Schumer threatening to keep calling votes on the BBB and then daring Manchin to keep saying no? I don't know why they're acting like this is such a surprise. Senator Pocahontas be crazy. I don't know why they're acting so surprised about this. Nobody should be surprised that he's voting no. And I respect that kind of senator. I respect somebody that has principles, and he has principles. They have 11 months to do so. Do you think you'll ever do bigger speaking events at conservative conventions or something? I would really like to. I always have big goals. It's good to have big goals. That's why I'm constantly trying to read and watch things to fill my knowledge gaps. Because the more you talk about things, the more you realize, wow, I have gaps in my knowledge. All right, so this issue, I talked about this earlier, CPAC. Yes, I like CPAC. I might try to go to the next one, whenever that one is. So this situation is wild. The fact that we're even talking about, you're doing great. Thank you so much. That's really nice. The fact that we're even talking about this is just pure insanity. So you all heard about what is happening at UPenn. Go Big Goals. You all heard what's happening at UPenn on the women's swim team. Manchin gave America the gift of rational thought. My leg's asleep. There aren't Dems with actual. Oh, so okay. So MacGyver just said, I hate to say it, but I'm not shocked that there are Democrats that don't have cojones. I'm not either, and that's a huge and that actually that sentiment, what you just said, that hi zombies, that what you just said is sort of is going to be themed into this next topic because we have a serious issue of bravery in this country. And I think some of the reasons why we're even having some of these insane conversations, the conversation that we're about to have, is because of a lack of bravery and because so many people that hold these positions of power, they cave to a very loud, very aggressive minority when in fact the majority of people do not agree with this. This is why Joe Biden's popularity is basically he doesn't have any because they're making all of these decisions that actually the majority of Americans don't agree with. But they get these positions of power and then they just cave to these activists or just the radical leftists. But I think there's a serious problem with bravery, and that's going to go into this next topic. So what's happening at UPenn on the women's swim team is there's an individual named Leah Thomas. And Leah Thomas, I believe, is 21 or 22. But Leah Thomas used to be Will Thomas and was actually on the men's swim team at UPenn for 3 years and was an elite athlete. Wasn't just somebody that did terribly. An elite athlete on the men's swim team for 3 years. In 2019, started transitioning to a female and was competing on the men's team up until 2019, I believe. Yes. 22 years old. And transitioned into a female, has been on testosterone suppressants for a year, and is now on the women's swim team. Because according to the NCAA, you only need to, if you are a biological male, all you have to do to be eligible to participate and compete in women's sports is be on testosterone suppressant for a year. That's it. So Leah Thomas is on the women's swim team and is dominating, has already broken 3 records. One of these, one competition, and I actually watched it, was so bad. And I believe Leah is tall. Leah was a tall boy. One of them, I think it was the 1650. I don't know swimming. And even though I watched one competition, Leah was ahead by 38 seconds. Got first place, is just demolishing these girls. 6'2". Wow. Yeah, beat a girl by 38 seconds, which in the world of swimming, I am told this is like a continent. That is just pure insanity. And I watched that. It is very unfair. I watched that competition, and even everyone in the audience knew that this is so unfair. Nobody, when Leah won, nobody clapped. When the girl finally came in second place, everyone was clapping and cheering because they know that it's not fair. Now, 3 girls on the swim team have come out anonymously and have spoken to different publications saying that they think this is incredibly unfair. They're really upset. They feel really disheartened. They feel like they don't have a chance in heck because this person is just physically superior to them. Their 10 parents have written a letter to the NCAA saying that they need to change the rules back to be fair, and that Leah should not be competing against these women, and that this is incredibly unfair. As far as I know, the NCAA hasn't said anything, which I think is awful. Where are they? Because this has been a controversy for a few weeks now. The science, yes. So the girls are saying that they have been going to their coach, and their coach is basically just saying, you know what, there's nothing that we can do. Leah is here to stay, and you're just going to have to suck it up. They're being encouraged not to go to news outlets and talk about this. And the parents in this letter have asked the NCAA to change their rules back to biological women competing against biological women. They have said that this is unfair. They have said that they are afraid to speak out for themselves because of the backlash and because of losing their jobs and everything like that. No one is doing anything. No one is standing up for these girls. Like I said, they did write that letter. Haven't heard anything from the NCAA, but this is where we're at. They should have their own division. It's not fair at all. It's not fair at all. And all of these feminist groups that talk about misogyny, this is misogyny. This is a male going into a female space and basically dominating and taking away the records and all of this stuff from women. And then these women are being told, yeah, okay, it is unfair, but you're gonna have to be quiet and shut up. You can't say anything, and if you do, you're a bigot. Wow, does that sound familiar? Does that sound like the witch trials for women that were outspoken, or women that didn't fit the mold that they were told they were burned at the stakes? Are these the modern day witch trials? And I can't even believe I'm talking about this right now. I can't even believe I'm talking about misogyny. That is insane. But if this isn't misogyny, I don't know what is. So what is good is that, and what blows my mind is no one in the sports world is really talking about this. True women, yeah. But you have where are all the feminist groups? Where's the Women's March talking about this? They're not, nobody is talking, no one will say anything. The only people that are saying something, and who I have a lot of respect right now, are radical feminists. So radical feminists have been talking about gender identity for years now, and there's actually a lawsuit happening in California because they're allowing biological men to identify as women, even with all of their parts, and they're being transferred to women's prison, and a lot of really awful things are happening because of that. So there is a lawsuit by radical feminists, and they've been talking about this for years. They call it the new misogyny. Feminist groups come out when paid. Yes. But in my opinion, those radical feminists, even though I don't agree with them on everything, there's many things I do not agree with them. What I have a lot of respect for them for is they understand that Republicans are going to have their backs on this issue, and what they're coming out and saying, they're saying we don't agree with everything, but we need to come together on this and fight this together, because this gender identity thing is crushing women's rights. And this is a women's rights issue. We saw that in California with the Wee Spa situation, where you had a male who had all of his parts in the women's area where women were walking around naked. And the women that spoke out about it were called bigots. They were called phobes. Even in this situation, I'm looking, and it's talking about how a bunch of phobic people are talking about this swim issue and coming after Leah Thomas. And that's another issue that I have with the NCAA, because I don't see how this is doing. I would have to highly question the character of someone, because you can't tell me that Leah does not understand that there is an unfair advantage. If you're a swimmer, I would assume that you have a bit of a better understanding about the capabilities of yourself and your body and what you can do. So the fact that, in my opinion, it stinks, but maybe, when you start taking your suppressants, when you start making that transition, maybe, and it sucks, but maybe that's one thing that you have to forego. Okay, I'm going to transition as a woman, but, I'm just not going to be able to swim competitively anymore. I don't know. You could say that's unfair, but a lot of things are unfair. Life is unfair. There's a lot of things that I can't do because of my biology, and a lot of things that I'm not eligible to do because of my biology, my gender, and or my age. That's just life, and all of us face that. And I have to question the character of someone that would go in there and do that, knowing that this is going to be unfair to all the girls on this team. And what was upsetting is that not a lot of people were talking about this. That's what I was getting at. But my issue with the NCAA is now, even though I question the character of this individual, now you have a 22-year-old. So they're doing this for transgender individuals to protect them, to protect their rights, so that they have the right to compete in sport. But how is this doing Leah Thomas any justice, when now Leah is a 22-year-old who is in the middle of a national controversy? And I'm really appalled, actually, at the NCAA, one, for having this rule, and two, for not coming out immediately when this started hitting the news. And if they believed in this rule, where are they defending this rule, and where are they having Leah's back? They sort of threw Leah out there when they say that they're fighting for justice for Leah. Now Leah is a 22-year-old at the center of a national controversy, and that can't be healthy for anyone mentally. So this is supposed to be protecting Leah, but it's thrown Leah out there now. Hi, David. But somebody actually came out and said something. So this is Swimming World Editor-in-Chief John Lawn. Came out and said that what the NCAA is doing is not fair. So he's saying that despite the hormone suppressants that Leah has taken in accordance to NCAA guidelines, Thomas's male puberty advantage has not been rolled back to an adequate amount. So he's saying that Leah going through puberty and being and this is the editor-in-chief, was it Swim Magazine? Swimming World, editor-in-chief of Swimming World. He says the suppressants Leah has taken account for an approximate 2 to 3% time difference between male and female swimming, records at roughly 11%. So he argued that this is similar to an athlete doping. That's how unfair. And he's not accusing Leah of doping and is not saying that Leah would dope, but he is saying that the advantage that Leah has is equivalent, and the unfair advantage that Leah has is equivalent to an athlete doping, which you are not allowed to do. And he's calling out the NCAA, which I like. He likened this situation to the rampant doping seen in the 70s and 80s when German swimmers Cornelia Ender and Kristen Otto, who have long been suspected of doping, were winning Olympic gold medals and titles. He said, although positive tests were not typically returned, it didn't take a genius to recognize doping was at play. Administrators and referees swallowed their words, afraid of being branded for taking an accusatory stance. And that's where we're at today. Everybody knows this is unfair. The coach has to know this is unfair. The administrators have to know that this is unfair. The NCAA has to know that this is unfair. What I think they were hoping would happen is this would kind of go quietly under the rug and everyone would just sit down and take it. And these things are happening because there is a lack of bravery in this country. This is so obvious that it's not fair. It is so obvious that I don't know anything about the science of and the intricacies of these suppressants, but all you have to do is open your eyes to see that there is an advantage, that there is a biological difference that has not been eradicated over a year of suppressants, liberal policies. And what's really sad is that the majority of people know this. All you have to do is look at the video of the competition to see that this is wrong. This is very wrong. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen to this. I haven't heard anything from the NCAA yet. He said, what we are stating is this: the effects of being born a biological male as they relate to the sport of swimming offer Thomas a clear-cut edge over the biological females against whom Thomas is competing. Thomas is stronger. It is just that simple. And this strength is beneficial to the stroke and beneficial to the stroke and turns and endurance. Doping has the exact same effect. I'm glad this person came out and said something. And Leah stands by Leah's decision. And, again, you can question the character, but Leah is playing by the rules. I don't know what would happen. What would happen if all of the girls just striked and said, we're not competing? And it's wild to me that we're even having this conversation because it's so obvious, but we're having these conversations because of a lack of bravery and common sense. And now a 22-year-old is at the middle of a national controversy, which I don't think is appropriate either. Someone said they look like bullies too. That's why these radical feminists are calling it the new misogyny. Yeah, she said I think they should strike. I think so too. But I don't know if they will. I understand both sides. I understand that someone has to take a stand. Someone has to put their neck out there. I understand being afraid. These girls worked their whole lives to swim, and a lot of them have scholarships they're afraid of losing. They're worried about future jobs. It's really sad. But what do? Sometimes you have two options in life. You can sit there and keep your and keep your head down and take it, and people will continue to take advantage of you, or you can be brave. I don't know. That's sort of the risk assessment that you have, and that's something you have to have within yourself. I don't, and shame on the NCAA for not coming out and defending their policy and defending Leah also. Well, shame on them for having it in the first place, and then shame on them for not coming out and defending it. If you really believe in something, you should have no issue coming out right away and defending it. Someone said they want to push everything so it breaks. It almost seems like that's the agenda. Just push everything until it breaks. And then the women's group, where are they? This is actual oppression happening right in front of your eyes. And what's happening in California with the women's prison is really sad. These are some of the most vulnerable population. A lot of women that end up in prison are victims of certain kinds of abuses and assaults, and are now having to be housed with biological males. And if they speak out about it, they're told to be quiet. So I'm keeping an eye on that lawsuit as well. All right, let's talk about Alec Baldwin. It doesn't fit their agenda. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, the women's march, it doesn't fit their agenda. That's why they won't talk about it. And that's why when you don't have principle, this is what happens. You have conflicting your agenda, it conflicts. You say you care about women, yet you are supporting policies that actually oppress women. You say you care about people that are low income or people that are minorities, yet you endorse policies which directly hurt those people. And so you have to hide things. You can't talk about everything. You can't comment on everything because it'll contradict your political agenda. That's why you should always lead with principles and not just blindly follow a political party or blindly follow a politician or a celebrity or anything for that matter. Everything should be based on principles. And when it's not based on principle, all of your narrative falls apart. And then you have to be unethical, and then you can't speak on certain things, or, that's what happens. That's why you won't see the Women's March talking about this issue. There's actual oppression happening right now of women. They like to talk about ghosts and stuff that don't exist. That's what they do. Because if you talk about things that don't exist, you don't actually have to do anything about it. You can just do the fun stuff. You can just wear a pink hat and march down the street and complain. You don't actually have to do anything. That's what I say. I call out, since we're going to talk about Alec Baldwin, let's talk about Hollywood. Here, Hollywood loves to talk about inclusivity and diversity, and we need to be more inclusive, and they love to virtue signal to the rest of America, and Oscar's so white and all of that stuff. And I'm like, okay, so why doesn't the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, meanwhile being the least inclusive industry you could argue anywhere, they're literally the least inclusive industry. And I know this because I auditioned. There's so much nepotism. It's wild. And there's so many people getting things because of reasons we won't go into. Harvey Weinstein. But they love to talk about inclusivity while being the least inclusive people ever. And so I'm like, okay, so if Oscar's so white, if we need to do better, if we need to get better, if BLM, if Black Lives Matter, why doesn't the Academy of Arts and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and don't tell me the funding isn't there. The funding is all over Hollywood. Why don't they build an acting school in South Central LA? Have it free. It could be an after school program, K through 12, all kinds of different acting classes, and make it free. And then the kids have somewhere to go after school. They're not getting in trouble. They're learning acting. And then Oscar is white. And then maybe have, talent scouts go there and scout talent. I bet there's a lot of talent around there. And a lot of those kids have seen some things. I think that would be a great idea. And then you could even do a gala once a year and raise a bunch of money to help fund it. They won't do anything like that because they don't actually care. They just want to make you think that they care, and then they want to lecture you because they're projecting their own selves onto you. And that's why nobody watches the Oscars anymore. That's what Ben Shapiro actually had a really good idea about this too. He's like, why don't large corporations, offer free tuition to people in low income areas or people that can't afford college, and make a deal. We'll pay, if you continue to get good grades, we will pay your tuition, and then you come work for us for 3 years and work it off. I think that would be a great idea. That would be such a better option than corporations just pandering all the time. Guns don't kill people, Alec Baldwin does. Okay, let's talk about Alec Baldwin now. So this is really interesting. The father of Haylna Hutchins has actually come out and spoken publicly right now. And this is interesting because this is the first person that's very close to her that has made a statement sort of condemning Alec Baldwin. So this is really interesting. We talked about it a little bit on this channel, but I think that Alec Baldwin, who did he do that interview with? It was ABC, correct? Yes. Alec Baldwin doing that interview with ABC was such a mistake on his part, and I think anyone who did have a little bit of sympathy for him just lost it during that interview, not to mention just the behavior of him and his wife since this has happened. His wife has been posting on Instagram like crazy. When I was researching this topic, I just took a gander on her Instagram, and one of the first pictures is like her and her kids, and they're having a dance party, and they're so happy, and it's the holidays, and that's wonderful. That is wonderful. But man, can you take a break off social media? And she did the same thing around Halloween. Oh, this time is so hard with my family, and I'm trying to make it normal for my kids. Okay, I get that. I understand. But why need to post that right now? I think the thing you should have done is just taken some time off social media. Because I think any ounce of sympathy anyone had for them they're really digging themselves into a deeper hole, and that is because they are such flaming narcissists. They cannot help themselves. Alec Baldwin could not help himself. He had to go on and try to save his reputation and did this PR stunt of an interview, and it just was not a good look for him at all. And I also think legally was not good for him at all because he made a really big mistake. He was describing... So in this interview, he actually said that he didn't know the gun went off. He didn't know he thought she fainted or was having some different medical emergency. He didn't know. But he implicated himself because he knew when you fire, it bounces back like that. It has a kickback. And he said that some of the instruction he got from the armorer on set was that when he fired, because there weren't going to be actual bullets in there, he needed to create that kickback. So when he fired, he would have, and I've shot that same type of weapon before, and the first time I shot, that was the first time I had shot a gun ever, and it was the same that he had, and it was so powerful. shot it the first time, and I immediately had to put it down and just take a step back and be like, whoa, because having that much power in your hand is just, I cannot describe it. So he's saying that when it went off, he didn't realize what happened until like 45 minutes later. So that's a lie, because he knew he had to create that recoil. Yeah, that recoil or kick. Yeah. And so the fact that you wouldn't notice that right away and you wouldn't hear the loud bang is just, I don't buy it. So that makes it seem like he's being dishonest or he's being deceptive. So that was a mistake as well. The authorities have ordered to confiscate his phone. So they have a search warrant for his phone. I don't know if he's turned it in yet. So all of this is just a bad look for him. But this is what Haylna's dad said. He said, so I cannot, Natalie is her father's name, Natalie Androzovich. He said, just trying to pronounce it correctly, many layers, yeah, lie lasagna, I like that. So he said, this is what Haylna's father said. He said, I can't understand the behavior of Alec. He goes on to say, why did he fire the shot during preparations? Referring to the gun discharging during rehearsal while Hutchins was setting up the camera for the shot. He also said the revolver is the type of gun which doesn't shoot before the trigger is pressed. Alec is partially guilty for causing that shot, he goes on to say. It is clear to me that Baldwin fired this shot from his hand, so it's hard for me to understand how he cannot be partly responsible for my daughter's death. He also said, Hutchins' father also spoke about his daughter's 9-year-old son, Andros. In the wake of the tragedy, he said he wasn't sure how the child would ever fully recover. He says, Andros is slowly getting back to life. This is a huge blow for all of us. So even Haylna's father is saying, remember in that interview, Alec also said that he didn't feel any guilt because he wasn't responsible. And her father is now saying, wait a second, you are partially responsible. You were holding it in your hand. And it went off when it was in your hand. It doesn't just go off by itself. So, and that breaks my heart too. And he's talking about this little boy. Haylna had a 9-year-old little boy. And that just shows you the character of Alec and his wife for just boasting about their family on the internet. Just take a break, people. Take a break out of the limelight. But I think this interview was really bad for Alec. I feel really bad for her father. Of course, her son, her entire family. And this was pretty fascinating because this was the first time that somebody close to Haylna has come out and said that they feel like Alec is partially responsible. Does that mean that he's fully responsible? No. But there's something going on here, and there were a lot of inconsistencies in this interview with Alec. The more I watch it, the more I see analysis on it, the more I'm finding I'm seeing more and more inconsistency. The example I just gave you is one. He was also very vague, not giving details, which could be because there's lawsuits, speaks as if he needed more safety training. Yeah, and it seemed like he was blaming people without blaming them. It just wasn't good. It would have been much better for him to just take a break. Yeah, but no, that's what, because if you are a narcissist, you can't stand to have he seems to be more concerned about his reputation than having respect for the family and having respect for just letting the situation play out, take a break. And I think he made a huge mistake. And it was actually right. It was right after that interview aired. The sheriff. Yes, I forgot about that little piece of information. After this interview, I think he ticked off the sheriff a little bit. And the sheriff came out and said, in Santa Fe, he came out and said, guns do not go off by themselves. The sheriff said that. So I think he ticked off the sheriff by doing this. And I think he ticked off her father for doing this, for basically saying that he felt zero guilt. And what you can say, and there are legal reasons why you have to be careful in admitting guilt. So I understand that from a legal standpoint. But what he could have said in that situation, legally, I do not feel guilt because it was an accident. But, as a friend, as the person that was holding the weapon, I feel a tremendous amount of guilt and sorrow. So you can say that legally you are not, rendering yourself guilty. I'm going to have to get off in a minute. But on a moral level, you can say, of course, I feel guilty. Because, of course, even if you're in an accident and it was not your fault and someone got hurt, you would feel guilty. When you survive an accident, the survivor's guilt, when you even see something happening and you were in the vicinity and you made it out okay, yet other people didn't, whether it was a natural disaster or whatever, you feel survivor's guilt. You feel guilty. That's a part of the human process. And he just seems to care more about his reputation, and that's his behavior. Calm down, Baldwin. He's ticked off a lot of people. That happens when you think of only yourself. Yeah, and a lot of people that were probably even fans of his are just like, why are you doing this? I mean, he was gallivanting around town and shopping and having roadside press conferences with his wife. It's just none of it's good. So, but there is still a criminal investigation. I don't know if anyone will be charged. But something needs to happen. There are people responsible. I think that's everything. Yes, you all, I think that is everything. He will walk free, I bet. Oh yeah, and he was at a gala, and someone commented when I made this like short little video pointing out that he was at a gala. Someone was like, they're allowed to go out and smile. And yes, you're obviously continue with your life and take care of your priorities and things like that. But, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And I think the respectful thing for the family would have been to just take a break out of the limelight. It's interesting because we've talked about this Astroworld thing with Travis Scott. And he did the same thing. He went and did an interview, and it just made him look really bad. Travis Scott, he's the rapper who was performing at Astroworld when 10 of his fans died. They all died of asphyxiation, so they basically suffocated while on their feet. But he did the same thing. He couldn't help himself. Hi, Lance, I'm sorry. I'm about to get off. Next time I go live, I'll make an announcement way farther in advance. Now you can't go. You're awesome. Oh, thank you. I have to because I had to unplug my phone because there's blue cheese in the speaker of my phone, and I had to plug in my microphone instead, and that eats up the battery when I go live on my phone. So I'm going to buy a new phone, and I have to use my phone because I'm in the country and the internet sucks out here. So I have to use my data, which uses the battery. But I have to use my microphone and not plug my phone in because there is blue cheese in it. Blue cheese dressing. I wonder if I can get it out. I don't know how I would even do that. Another rapper stabbed to death. I saw that. I read that headline. But Travis Scott did the same thing. He did this interview with Charlemagne the God. He hosts a really popular, I think it's a radio show or a podcast. And it was the same thing. It just made him look so bad, and it looked so disrespectful to the victims. And it's like, these people cannot help themselves. They just can't help themselves. Travis Scott, by the way, I don't know if you know this. They pulled him. He was supposed to play Coachella. He was supposed to headline at Coachella, and they told him they didn't want him headlining anymore. And you get paid like $2 to $3 million for doing that. He even offered to play for free, and they said no. So things are not going well for him. And he did the same thing. He had to come out and do this interview, and it was just a massive fail because it was very clear that this was just a PR move. And he just appeared very shallow in this whole interview. And if I was a fan of his and if I had sympathy for him after seeing that, I would have been like, no, not anymore. So, all right, you all. He did his role, now under the bus. Defund the Kardashians. I am okay with defunding the Kardashians. That is fine by me. All right, you all. I am going to go. I had to cut it like a few minutes short because I think my phone is about to die. Sympathy for thee. Have a great day. Thank you all. Yeah, you all have a wonderful day. I will go live tomorrow at some time. I just need to see what time. I'm thinking I'm going to do it in the evening because I know people might have work. So, but I'll announce my time on my community board, or if you follow me on any social media, I'll announce it very far in advance so you know what time. Yeah, I had to drop the terrible rapper the other day named R. Oh, I saw that. We can talk about that later. All right. Bye, you all. Have a really good day. See ya. Oh, what am I doing? I don't know. Bye. Thank you, MacGyver. See ya. Give Ia hugs. I will if she doesn't bite me. Bye.